Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Cluster API Release Team weekly meeting. It's the 22nd of January. We are here every week, a half an hour before the CAPI meeting, to discuss the progress on the version 1.10 release, which is just kind of underway. As I'm sure you're well aware, we are a subproject of SIG Cluster Lifecycle, and as such, we abide by their rules of conduct, which is basically boils down to let's make this a happy, welcoming place for everyone. Try and use the raise hand feature. Etc. I'm sure you're all well familiar with that. If you feel like adding your name to the attendee list, please do so. And if anybody has anything to bring up, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through the agenda. First, let's check in with the CI team, see what's going on.
That's me.
That's you.
We had a meeting this morning, just kind of checking in with everyone. To my knowledge, we don't have any new flakes. All the current flakes are ones that have already been known about and already have tickets open. There was an issue yesterday with failing tests, but that was upstream end-to-end tests from Kubernetes that were broken. And folks pinged the right group. It was SIG Network. They've already fixed it, I guess. Um, Only news, I guess, is that the CI team is working on coming up with a schedule to kind of set up some pairing and time so that folks can kind of feel like get a sense of like this week we're gonna dig in and work on checking on the flakes and working on fixing old flakes so that people can kind of schedule and coordinate and do some mentoring. But that's still in progress. We're working it out, and that's all we've got. If people are uh, I should be clear that most of the CI team is new to this, and I'm certainly new to leading it, and debugging end-to-end tests is hard. So if anytime anyone's got suggestions or see a gap where we're not doing something we think we should, please let me know. Totally open to feedback.
Great. Sounds good from my point of view. Sounds like you guys are on it. Mohammed, go ahead.
Hey, I have a flaky test since the previous release 1.9 I was working on, and I have a BR for it, but there was some kind of disagreement on the fix for the BR with Briazo. So yesterday I got the time to look to it again, so I might update the BR like maybe today, tomorrow. But I was just wondering, just to give you a little history about this BR, it's the main issue that's happening is we consider the container as our source of truth, not the Docker machine custom resource that is get created, which somehow end up doing some weird behavior in the execution of the code. So I'm not sure if you guys like aware of, just check the discussion on this thread on the BR. So I was just wondering if anyone knows that if there are reason for doing that, considering the container, the running container as our source of truth, not the custom resource, which is the Docker machine in this case, as a source of truth.
Mhm.
Because the fix that I'm trying, I will gonna push it soon, is it changing this logic. So anyone got similar experience before with any other provider? No? Okay.
No, I mean I've done a little work on Docker
So
provider,
you're
but I don't know. Sorry, go ahead, Pablo.
so you're basically removing compute desired Docker machine. Oh no, wait, you are modifying this, and there's a patch there with caching proxy. I mean, so you're saying the Docker machine, like Docker machine object that's for copy, right? Uh, is problematic here for tests.
Well, okay, to give
trying to
you
understand I'm looking at the PR, trying to understand like yeah, from the copy point of view,
so to give
since
you
copy
a
is
quick
kind of. Hmm?
yeah, to give you a quick context, so the test is flaky, but what I have noticed when I work on it, even when it succeeds without being flaky, without failing, we have a couple of Docker machines, CRs, keep lifted after the cluster and the Docker machine pool is deleted. So it's a bit strange
Uh-huh.
behavior. Shouldn't happen
Okay.
like that.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
one issue I observed was doing that is we were considering the container, the running container on the Docker daemon in the running is the source of truth. So what happened
Uh-huh.
is during the deletion of the Docker machine pool, one of the container is created and it didn't get deleted, which is end up that we create the Docker machine, the custom resource Docker machine, out based on this container, which is
Hmm.
making it hanging alone without a machine pool or a cluster there.
Well,
But it's specifically Docker. I mean, I'm just thinking like Kubernetes is under the hood and uses container D, not Docker. I'm assuming that you mean Docker container, which is for those tests like running specific image,
well,
not Kubernetes in general.
rather than try and figure it out here, because this is kind of out of scope for this meeting, maybe we should just like post a
Yeah,
link to it
good point.
and we can dive into it on the issue or in the CI meeting. Sorry, I'm actually quite interested, but we have a hard stop in 20 minutes and probably other people here are not necessarily interested in the details.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Matt. I'm just heads up, to if someone in have any clue on what I'm doing. So thanks.
Yeah, I don't. And if anyone else does, obviously please speak up. Otherwise, if you can edit the document and add a link there, then that'll be a good reference.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thanks.
Do we have any other CI stuff? Nope. Comms team, Chandan had to drop, apparently. So, let me see, did he put anything in chat? Okay, well, uh, there aren't any active tasks as far as I'm aware right now for the comms team. And I know he was setting up a meeting, so we'll get an update from him when they're back. Um, Next up, we can check in on the big task list. I think we're doing pretty well. There is a deprecated flag that we just removed and merged this morning. Thanks to Sanat, because I spaced it out. We got the patch releases done yesterday. So according to the calendar, we're in kind of a open time where we should just be looking at CI issues and thinking about what's coming, but we don't actually have specific tasks for a couple weeks. Having said that, Fabrizio PM'd me yesterday, and they are. I'm not sure where the discussion was going on, but the maintainers are considering changing the schedule, and I may not have understood it perfectly, but I think the idea is, oh, and I typoed this. We're going to move to v1 beta 2 API perhaps, and rather than squeeze that into 110, it needs more time to bake and get some mileage on it. So that would be in 111. But the idea is maybe we could start a 111 release earlier than usual. So the 111 ends up being a longer release cycle than usual because it's a bigger, potentially more disruptive change. And that might also compress the 110 cycle a little bit. This is what Fabrizio PM'd me about. I don't know if I understood it perfectly. And I was kind of hoping he would show up here and pitch it, but maybe they're still kicking this idea around. So that's all the info I have. I'm just putting that out there, but potentially this schedule we have here might get compressed by a couple weeks. I don't think that would affect us that much. It might mean there's actually kind of less change overall in v1.10, and therefore it's maybe a little lower stakes, which is a good thing overall. But anyway, I don't have any specifics, so hopefully that didn't confuse things. But I thought people want to hear about that potential change. That is all I had on the agenda. Does anybody have anything else you want to bring up? We had kind of low attendance this time, and I will take that as proof that I should have sent out a redundant invite. So I'll do that right now, I promise. And and I'll post a recording of this, so hopefully anybody who wants to can catch up.
So maybe one question here.
Yeah.
So if yesterday we got this release, that was draft release, right? And I realized that there is during the process, there's a PR opened with SHA songs the SHA sounds that are in the PR. And in the comments, it was said that those sounds were verified manually by checking the contents of the images pushed into the GCR repository for the artifacts. And I
Yep.
wonder if it will be like one of these improvements or features that we would be able to like automate on our end.
Um, yeah, it's a good question. I was thinking about that while we were doing it too. Uh, CapZ, the Azure provider, which I also work in, uses basically the same tools to do a release, but we only have one SHA to compare. So that feels more like a human task. You just go, okay, okay, and and obviously if the first eight or so digits match, it's gonna match. Is
Oh,
good
you
enough.
mean the shuffle cluster castle, right? Or the cluster
Well,
K
for in,
binary?
in our
I
in our
mean
case,
I
there's
mean
just one
the
for
image then.
the CapZ controller. In Cappy's case, there's four different SHAs. Um, so it feels like it's making more of an argument for we should automate this because there was a lot of, we were all looking at the screen. Maybe people are doing it independently, and it's just humans who can make mistakes going, oh, yeah, that looks the same. Uh, so, yeah, it's a task that feels like it's right on the border of where it would benefit from automation. A human can obviously do it in a couple minutes, but we can also make mistakes. Having
Yeah, I
said
mean,
that,
the mental attack is always possible, right? Especially when there's a script that pushes to a registry. And
yeah,
I mean, verifying that manually is a good thing, I guess, because someone checks it, but maybe there should be like a process that also says that it's okay because those updated PRs are generated through the makefile script and scripts the makefile the makefile defines. Uh, I know something might always go wrong, and there's also like migration between staging and production. So maybe in somewhere there in that area. But I'm stepping up too fast a little bit here. I still don't know yet what happened like with this draft release yesterday, where GitHub Actions invoked steps failed on the release to update actually the binary, not the image. For a cluster, Catalans or cluster API, I haven't tested that one yet, or even downloaded. So I need to get into copy attractions, but it just failed to do so, and I'm thinking that maybe it was because we had two PRs. One was for version simultaneously, right? We had
hmm
like
hmm
version Y 18 something and 19. So I wonder if there was like some kind of a race condition there that could have caused this kind of a weird output from GitHub with this, I don't know, HTML with JS thingy. I
yeah,
don't know, but it happened, and I'm thinking if it happens like again, then maybe that's something that's worth looking into. If not, then probably
yeah,
some like
for sure, definitely. And it's a good question too
just.
about should we try to automate it? Because in principle, it should be automatable, right? We could use the G Cloud uh, tool to find all the SHAs of the images, and then we could, I guess we'd have to supply the name of the PR or the branch, but then we could scrape the SHAs out of that. So I think in theory you could automate the SHA comparison as well. And So I'm glad you asked these questions. It's good to keep in mind because when we're all doing the release, people are like, just get it working, hit retry, let's get this thing done. And we need to take a step back and be like, hey, something went wrong here. Uh, maybe we can improve it. So I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also like thinking about it, but maybe that's something not for now. Let's see how it
I feel
goes
like
out
we should bring up
further.
the SHA comparison thing. I feel like we should bring it up with the maintainers because someone might say, oh, we tried
For
that,
images, yeah.
it won't work
Hmm.
for this, or maybe we actually feel there's value in having a human control at that point in the process. I've heard that argument.
Yeah. I think from security point of view, it kind of makes sense to double check everything.
But I don't know. Steven, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I missed the meeting yesterday. Excuse me. But I know in the past, and I think in the threads, Stefan might have indicated his sentiment on this, which is essentially he thinks it might be kind of like a hat on the hat. You have a tool that verifies whether the first tool compares the SHAs. And I know there's historically been some
Yeah, good point.
sentiment of like, okay, sure, tooling is great, but at the same time, tooling is not desirable for its own sake. And, there's things that once you have a tool, there's maintenance costs and blah, blah, blah. And so I think I don't want to speak for him, but that's having been part of the release cycle a few times. I think one time he joined us on the release cut and he was like, oh, you guys are checking the SHAs. Like I've never done that before. I just see they get published and then I move forward. So just throwing that out there from past experience. And one quick note on the GitHub thing. Definitely agree, worth investigating further if it happens again, but I've never seen it happen before. And I guess this would be the third or fourth release cycle that I've been, involved in some capacity. So hopefully it was just, some intermittent failure on the GitHub side. But yeah, I agree, it would be worth investigating.
Probably intermittent, yeah. But I just wonder if it was because of two PRs. There could be there could have been some kind of a race condition not cleared. I'm not sure.
Who knows? I don't want to stop you from investigating it if you think there's something to look at there, but it sounds like Steven says it's not something we've seen before and something we don't expect to see again, but we'll see.
The only thing I'd say is if it's a hat on a hat situation, why do the humans need to check on it at all? That's the part I'm missing. Why do we have that human check step? Because if it's all done automated, then we shouldn't need that.
Yeah. Well, to be totally honest, in the real world, if I'm not doing the release for the Cap C project, people aren't checking the SHAs. They're just like, it's probably good, and they go ahead and approve it. So, uh, but
But
I do think checking the SHAs is something we ought to do because it could go wrong,
yeah.
and then you'd feel stupid.
Yeah, I'm not sure what creates that PR very low level, but I saw the PR and there are images updated of multiple things or one thing, and there's new SHA, and it needs to be maybe that's kubeadm, maybe that's Flutter API, maybe that's Kubernetes kubectl or whatever, or image. Or whatever image that needs to be uploaded to or kube API or whatever, I don't know, uploaded to GCR. So I was like wondering, okay, so there's this comment there. The SHAs have been verified manually, right? So maybe it's a good thing to have this human pair of eyes to actually look at the consistency, right? But on the other hand, it would be nice if there would be like approval from a bot that says, "Hey, those SHAs are okay." There was nothing in the middle that would change the image layers or anything like this. So no man in the middle attack, basically, right?
I the one thing I'd say is if it's being generated and uploaded by the same GitHub action, then there is no middle layer. So somebody who
Yeah,
fully
I don't
understands
know
the
the steps.
CI needs
Like
to look at this
yeah,
because
the
that's where
whole
your hat on a hat comes
exactly.
into
Yep,
place,
yep,
right?
yep,
And there really
yep.
is no value of adding it then. So, oh.
I mean, it looks like it's been verified in why it's not. But yeah, it's probably. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like we ought to at least human verify it. I get annoyed when other members on the team seem to have skipped it because, these days we should be worrying about exploits all over the time, all over the place. And if the SHA doesn't match, something's wrong. But anyway, all right.
Right. And if the image is in GCR, if GCR repo is configured to allow for uploading, for example, the same image with the same SHA or tag, right? Because it also can be that can be another layer of
Yep.
security there. Like, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, does anyone have anything else release related? Otherwise, we can call it good for today. See you here next week and probably at the CAPI meeting in a few minutes. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.